So today I'm pleased to announce that the City of Calgary, on behalf of the Calgary Police Service, is posting a request for proposal for body-worn cameras. This RFP will be open until Wednesday, October 11th, 2017. Once the RFP is closed, submissions will be evaluated and shortlisted, part of which includes hands-on testing. At this time, CPS is asking the vendor to supply 250 body-worn cameras. These cameras will be used by officers in frontline policing positions and roles who currently are not equipped with our in-car digital video. The request for 250 cameras manages our current fiscal realities while ensuring an appropriate amount of cameras are deployed to provide the service with an accurate reflection of how cameras and technology will be integrated into operations. Deployment of the body-worn cameras is guided by 5 key principles: enhancing transparency, public trust, and confidence; collection of evidence; enhancing officer accountability and professionalism; protecting officers from unfounded allegations of misconduct; and lastly, aiding to de-escalate situations. Pardon me. The Calgary Police Service remains committed to the use of body-worn cameras. Extensive work has been carried out over the years to determine best practices, sound policy, determining appropriate staffing needs and levels, and researching advances in technology. Our body-worn camera program began in November of 2012. And this started with a pilot project to test the feasibility of body-worn cameras and their technology. After completion of the pilot project, further research was done and an RFP was issued. In August 2015, a phased rollout of cameras to District 1 and traffic was done to determine how well they functioned and how they operated in our different working conditions. This was followed by a 3-month evaluation period. In February 2016, we ran into technical issues resulting in a compromise of officer safety, which led to the recall of those body-worn cameras. Despite several months of negotiations with the previous vendor, the contract was terminated, and today a statement of claim has been filed. As this is now in legal proceedings, I am unable to provide specific details or comment in too much detail. However, I can assure you that the Calgary Police Service remains committed to continuing our deployment of body-worn cameras, to updating the media and our public and the rollout of the cameras once the RFP has been awarded. And now I'll answer any questions that you may have.
You're getting 250 cameras. How many police officers are there that play in this frontline position?
If we look at all the districts, traffic, the amount of front lines is 1,300, 1,400 officers. So it's a smaller number than obviously that full deployment. But as mentioned, this will provide us an ability to assess and evaluate those cameras and do so within our current fiscal realities.
Okay, I don't know if this is the last press conference on this, but when we had talked to the chief, it was, at the beginning of this year they wanted to have them rolled out, and then I think it was July, and now we're hearing the beginning of next year. I know that you said that there were some delays with the original contractor, but can you just speak to the fact that this is yet another delay?
I wouldn't necessarily say this is a delay. What I'd say is we're working within the constraints of our environment, legal proceedings, the RFP process, and our budget.
I'll maybe ask the same thing a bit of a different way. I know you've been updating the commission. I've been there during those meetings, and you've been talking to us about trying how much work has gone into this. How frustrating has it been on the part of administration that if you guys had your way, this would have been out on the streets 2 years ago?
Sorry?
How frustrating has this been on the part of administration that, if you guys had your way and everything worked the way you initially wanted, this would have been out on the streets 2 years ago?
You know what, the reality is that we're operating in environments where there's technology that's changing, that we ran into some issues we spoke about that compromised our officers' safety. It is frustrating that it's taken as long as it has, but we're confident in going forward that we have our research in place. We have consulted with other agencies that have now implemented, rolled out body-worn, and we'll continue to work within this process.
Will there be a move at some point to have all frontline officers then equipped with these body cameras?
Yeah, absolutely. What I can tell you is the service remains committed to that, and what again we have to be mindful of is our operating environment and the budgets. So given that and the realities that we're faced with, We're at the 250 cameras right now. What our target is, we remain committed to having deployment working within our existing budgets.
What feedback,
What would it take to get the whole service, all street frontline officers outfitted with body cameras?
Given the RFP process, and the sensitivities around that, I can't speak to what an exact dollar figure would be. What we know, we can look at, we have budget secured for a 5-year period for the 250 cameras. That's really what I can speak to today.
how do you think the officers are feeling? They're going to have these cameras on them all the time when they're working.
You know what, I think you'll get a wide spectrum of questions like were just posed to me, the frustration of what's taking so long. Why can't we have cameras now? I attend the districts, I speak to our frontline officers, and for the most part, they're excited about this. They want the cameras. They see this as a benefit to their operating environments. So I would say that they're looking forward to the rollout and the deployment of our next phase of body worn here. Also speaking to our association president and representatives, and they are supportive and encouraging of body worn cameras.
In terms of the policies you guys have been working to put in place, now that you're potentially, because the RFP is now just going out, starting from ground zero with a new provider, what does this do about all the work that you've done before? Are you starting at ground zero, or a lot of those existing policies you can carry forward?
Absolutely. A lot of the groundwork has already been laid for us. And we look at our policies and our engagement practices with business and with community and with stakeholders. All of that is sound foundation for us to move forward with. Even when we look at training, aspects of training our officers. Now, depending on what the selected vendor is and what the product is at the end, we may need to revisit some of our training, but at least there's an awareness. Our officers have seen this. It's something that isn't brand new to them, and we've got a lot of that, as I say, that groundwork already laid.
And I suppose to a certain extent, I mean, there's been a lot of issues in terms of charges and he said versus police said in the last little while. This must sort of provide an added comfort to maybe those people on the front line, because there's going to be video evidence now attached to just about everyone's uniform.
Right, when we look at it, and that's when we talk about the 250 cameras and the deployment of those cameras being to frontline operational positions that currently do not operate with in-car digital video. So what we're trying to do is level the playing field for all of our frontline officers, that there is the ability for capturing video and digital evidence across the board. So yes, you know, when we're looking at this, certainly a benefit to it, but we also recognize that there's a proliferation of video in our environments. And whether it's cell phone cameras, whether it's digital cameras, here's one more means for us to capture evidence and information.
Do you know how much of the fleet doesn't have in-car digital video?
How much of, sorry, of the
roughly how much of the fleet doesn't have in-car digital video?
All of our operational areas, all of our districts and traffic sections are equipped with in-car.
So are officers asked to volunteer if they want them for now, or how are you guys choosing?
No, I won't get too much into the specifics, but again, and I'll provide you some example. And I certainly don't want to be pigeonholed into anything, but we're looking at the beats, our officers that don't operate necessarily in a police vehicle. This will provide them the opportunity to have body worn on their person and have digital video at their access. You know, the same thing with our mountain bike unit. So we're looking at the officers, as I say, within that operational environment that might not be in a car or might not have in-car digital.
Can you just quickly expand more on that feeling of what a crucial role this new technology will play both for police officers and Calgarians?
You know what, I think we're yet to see the exact extent of that. Anytime that we can enhance our public trust and our accountability, we can enhance our ability to collect evidence, there's going to be benefits to that. Whether it's through our internal processes, whether it's efficiencies within our day-to-day activities and how much time and energy goes into certain aspects, or whether it's in the early resolution of files.
Do you think you guys will have any problems
think it's really two separate things that we need to look at. There's the statement of claims that we're going through, and we will, with our city partners, work through that process. The RFP process is completely independent of that, and we will proceed. We're confident that we can meet these timelines going forward.
Did you guys get in the first RFP round? Did you get offers that you could then, contact them and revisit and say, we're looking for proposals again? Is that
the RFP process is something where instead of us reaching out to vendors and clients, it's something that's posted, and the clients can reach out. There's no doubt there's those companies out there that are aware of our situation and are waiting for this RFP to come forward.
Physically, what do they look like? Where are they positioned? Where's the lens positioned on the uniform? And do you have an extra pack, a power pack? What are the physicals like?
Again, so much of that depends on what the product is that the vendor brings forward. The selected vendor. Each one will be a little bit different, have uniqueness to it, but it's something, certainly all the body worns that I've seen, the camera's very visible. It's attached or mounted on the uniform. And then again, the technology behind that and the functionality, you go to the various companies and what their product can do.
So in this 250, are there several different products, several different?
What we're looking at is to select one vendor.
To select one vendor. So of these 250 cameras,
it'll be one vendor through the RFP process. One vendor will be identified. That vendor will provide us details as what they can deploy, what they can issue us.
I'm a little thick. You've got the 250, and what I'm wondering is if all those are made by one manufacturer, or are there several manufacturers in that 250, and then you're going to choose from that?
Sorry, what we'll select. The RFP process will bring in several vendors. Through that, we'll shortlist those vendors. So there'll be various cameras and technology and back-end support and all of that. So we'll look at that, and there's a process to follow within the city procurement process, standards to follow. We will select one vendor. That one vendor will provide us their technology, whether it's a combination of software and hardware, what type of services and supports.
I appreciate the patience.
I apologize if I wasn't clear.